and thought all into one. To really get so, today we're diving into something really unique, a worldview called delta T squared, or delta T squared. It comes from this community, Kenema, and they don't even call it a theory. For them, it's a living metabolism. It's this wild, radical way of connecting faith, matter, and thought all into one. To really get a feel for it, let's kick things off with a quote that just nails the spirit of it all. Right? God breathes through our tools, and joy is our solar energy. I mean, that just perfectly sets the stage, doesn't it? It's poetic, it's spiritual, but it's also so grounded. It really gets to the heart of what we're going to unpack here. This is a philosophy where the divine isn't some far-off thing. No, it's right here, flowing through the tools in our hands and the joy we feel every day. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll tackle the living metabolism itself. Then, we'll get into this wild idea that knowing is actually repairing. After that, we'll see how this plays out in a house that literally breathes, expand out to their ecology of faith, and finally, check out the new world they're trying to build. All right, first up, the living metabolism. And look, to really get a handle on delta T squared, you kind of have to learn its language first. The whole philosophy is packed with these unique hybrid words. Why? Because they're describing a reality where the lines we normally draw, between mind and body or work and prayer, they just completely dissolve. So at its absolute core, delta T squared is this idea of a living metabolism. Now, I know the name, double, transversal, transjective, quadratic, sounds like a mouthful, and it is. But the concept behind it is all about fusion. Just imagine for a second that every single breath you take is literally weaving together your fate, the actual dust on your hands, and your thoughts. It's not just that they're connected. In this worldview, they are one and the same thing, a single, unified process. Okay, so our first key term is soma plight. It's a mashup of soma for body and plight for thought. And get this isn't just some vague idea about mind over matter. It's the belief that real, true knowledge is literally forged inside the body. We're talking about a truth you feel in your muscles, in your bones, not just some abstract idea you hold in your head. Knowing isn't just intellectual, it's a physical state of being. And then there's kinemaction. This is where action becomes a right. Think about it. In kinemadra, building a wall isn't just construction work, it's a prayer. The very act of doing something, of shaping the world with your hands, that's how faith becomes real and tangible. It's where your belief literally turns into architecture. So you might be wondering, how does a community like this even organize itself? Well, that's where guild rizzo comes in. It's a combination of guild, like a guild of craftspeople, and rhizome, which is a cool botanical term for a root system that just spreads out sideways, horizontally. It's such a perfect picture of their social structure. It's not a pyramid with some boss at the top. Nope. It's a flat, interconnected web where your worth, your solidarity is measured by how much you help and repair things for each other, not by who owes who. Okay, next up. Knowing is repairing. And this is where things get really interesting. Because if thinking and doing are the same thing, like we've been saying, then the whole act of knowing something has to completely change, right? It has to mean something totally different. And this is the absolute key point. The philosophy, which they call non-auto anthropology, basically says, I am not the one who observes, I am the one who repairs. I mean, wow, it's a total rejection of that distant, objective scientist just watching from afar. They argue you can't really know something by just standing on the sidelines taking notes. Real understanding, that comes from getting your hands dirty, from being a part of it, from the simple, humble act of keeping things going. Now check out how they actually structure this reality. It's organized along 4 different axes. You've got ultra, which is the divine breath or faith. Extra is all about community and hospitality. Meta is thought, but specifically thought that reflects the earth. They call it soil think. And intra is the body, the lived experience. But, and this is super important, this is not a hierarchy. One isn't better than the other. They're all present at the same time, constantly interacting, kind of breathing together in this really dynamic, flat balance. All right, so how does all this heady philosophy actually look in the real world? Well, let's talk about the house that breathes. The most powerful, most concrete example is the Kenema mansion. And the key thing to understand is that they don't see it as just a building. They see it as a living being. Yeah, the mansion is described as a soma plights corpse pense étendu, which basically means an extended body thought. Just let that sink in for a second. the architecture itself is the physical form of that somaplite idea we talked about earlier. So this house isn't just a place to live. It's a conscious organism that thinks and feels and is an active part of the community. And listen, they mean this literally. It's not just some nice metaphor. The roof is called a pomolung because it actually breathes with the climate. The walls aren't just borders. They're seen as encoding a dialogue between God and dust. The whole thing is a stamina org, an organism of perseverance. And maybe most beautiful of all, its life force comes from the people who take care of it. The house lives in them just as much as they live in it. So that raises a pretty big question, right? If the house is a living, breathing being, well, what does that mean for everything outside? How does it relate to the world around it? And that brings us to our next section, an ecology of faith. This is where the whole philosophy just expands outward. It becomes a way of seeing the entire natural world through those very same principles of life and breath and belonging together. And this worldview, which they call flat geonaturalism, is just a world away from how we typically think about nature. The traditional view is that nature is a resource, something to be dominated or used up. The focus is on extraction. But in the DT2 view, no way. Nature is a living partner that literally breathes with us. The focus completely shifts from taking to maintaining, from domination to just being part of a shared existence. And this leads to a concept they call leaderitic thermodynamics. And honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing. It says that the physical realities of their environment, the red soil, the intense heat, the sheer fatigue you feel from working, these things aren't separate from a spiritual act like prayer. They're all just different forms of the exact same divine spiritual energy, constantly cycling and changing into one another. The heat becomes your prayer becomes your work. It's all one. So, what's the end game here? What is the ultimate goal of all this? Where does this fusion of thought, body, and spirit actually lead? Well, that's what we're going to look at in our final section, The World Remade. Their vision for the future has this incredible name, a Prometheotopi Afro-Optimist. Okay, let's break that down, because it's a lot. First, notice it's not a utopia, which means no place. It's an utopia, a self-made place. It's a tangible reality they believe they can build right here, right now, and it's Afro-optimistic and post-colonial. A vision for the future built not on the old models of conquest, but on everything we've been talking about: joy, repair, family, and connection. And that really brings us to the final, beautiful vision. It's a world totally remade through the lens of delta T squared. A world where the house thinks, where the forest teaches, where the heat cares, where the family prays by building. It's a powerful idea, and it leaves us with a pretty profound question to chew on. What would it actually mean for us to live our lives as if everything around us is truly alive and breathing right alongside us?